Hi all, my name is Haley Comet and welcome to my cosmic corner of the internet where we discuss all things astrology, and today all things Virgo ascendant, how Virgo describes both how you see the world as well as how the world sees you. I think of it like a two-way mirror, and so often when we talk about the rising, particularly in modern astrology, no shade, but it's commonly written off as the mask, how other people think you are, but it's not exactly you. And my Virgo risings, I know you all are attuned to the details, so you should definitely know that when it comes to astrology, I would put more weight on the ascendant than the sun sign. Don't get me wrong, every single planet or luminary within a birth chart plays a very particular role, and I wouldn't say that any are unimportant altogether, but ascendant is the energy that you were birthed into this world into. It governs the angle of self, identity, the energy that exudes from you, and the perception of you. I think it has a lot of weight and depth for us to dive into. So I'll be explaining what it means for your appearance if you're Virgo rising, what it means for your priorities, what it means for how you are perceived. Loves, we're diving into all of it. If you wouldn't mind, if at any point in this video, I know you guys have high standards, but if at any point you feel seen, you feel heard, if you could drop a like, comment below what resonated with you, subscribe only if you want to. I'm moving backwards through this series, so in 2 weeks time I'll be taking it to Leo rising and so on and so forth, and I'm having so much fun with this series. So if you gain any value, please make sure to drop a little nudge, and without further ado, let's dive into Virgo rising, how you see the world. So you, my love, you have these glasses of perfection and analysis and you view the world with it. Now, does this mean that you are necessarily always the cleanest, most organized person? Not always. A lot of Virgo risings will be very particular. They have a very particular system by how they interact with the world, but it'll be their system. It'll be an order that makes sense to them. Like there are some Virgos where it'll be like a pile of clothes, but they know that the shirt that they want to wear is to the top left and don't you dare move it. Like there will be certain facets of life that Virgo rising is particular about, but it doesn't mean that they do every single thing perfectly. What they do though is they observe what is imperfect, which is why Virgo risings are the people that you want on your team. Because they will see the little flaws that are getting in the way from that project, that initiative, that endeavor fulfilling its best self. Like a Virgo rising is the one you want to proofread before you print anything. A Virgo rising is the one that you're going to want to have their eyes on before you debut that new play you wrote out into the world. Virgo risings will have really genuinely good feedback because they have very high standards, and their mindset, it's almost like they can zero in on what is wrong with any given situation, which is helpful in that Virgo risings can pick up typos like no one's business. They can pick up errors like no one's business. They process the world through details. They tend to naturally create really high qualities, creations of theirs. The downside of it is that when you're viewing your world through this lens of wanting to find perfection, when you live in an imperfect world, it can make you very critical towards yourself because it's just how your mind works. You just laser focus on the little details. So when it comes to yourself, when it comes to your appearance, you can be very, very critical. When it comes to your home, you can feel really bothered if there's like dust on the floorboards. Again, it'll differ. Not every single Virgo rising is a clean freak, but there will be particular things that you are particular about. And it's important to know those and honor those, because knowing what areas of your life that you need to be orderly and clean will allow you to soothe the sort of nervous neuroses that you can have at times. Because a Virgo rising, you see the world through this lens of trying to find perfection in an imperfect world, which can create a lot of nervousness in constantly trying to find it and never really being able to. Nothing is ever perfect, and Virgo rising wants it to be. They want themselves to be. That's why mistakes that you make can be the most devastating of all, more than any others that you catch, because you're like, I mean, everyone else is allowed to mess up here and there, I guess, but I need to be perfect. So internally, you can be so hard on yourself because when viewing anything that you create, you just zero in on what was wrong, what could have been better. And the sad thing about it, Virgo, is that what you create and what it is that you birth out into this world is honestly more high quality than you give it credit for. And to be completely honest, oftentimes what you look at and you're like, this isn't good enough, I'm not gonna show anyone this, it's better than what other people are out there, you know, making tons of money off of. There is this Virgo rising desire to want to be humble, to want their, you know, efforts to do the talking, and that's amazing. But oftentimes you really sell yourself short, and I'm tired of it. I connect with so many brilliant Virgo rising individuals who are like, yeah, I just wrote this sonnet, but it's whatever. And you read it and it's freaking beautiful. And then you have other people where it's like they wrote a haiku and they did it in 2 seconds and then they're parading it around like they're the next genius. And it's not just, I'm not trying to downplay anyone's, you know, creative process, but it frustrates me because I'm like, Virgo rising, why don't you believe in yourself? It's like those detail-oriented eyes have got you convincing yourself that you're not good and you're not worthy. Virgo is an archetype that is associated with this fundamental feeling of guilt and shame. And it's not to say that those energies need to pervade your life necessarily, but you need to make peace with them, because as Virgo rising, Virgo governs the Virgin, right? And Virgin is meant to depict this quest for purity, this quest for purification, which is why Virgo rising can sometimes feel these feelings of like shame or guilt, because they are here to sort of purify their world or try to become the best that they can be. But it's important for you not to feel guilty for being the person that you are. It's important for you to feel proud for what it is that you give off to this world. And it's important for you to believe in yourself, Virgo rising, because truly you are someone who has high standards for yourself, which can lead to some, you know, neuroses in itself, because there can be this analysis paralysis where you're so in your mind about things that it could be hard to just put it out there or to move forward because you just want it to be perfect, and then it makes you even more stressed out about it because you want it to be so perfect. Then you're just this bundle of nerves. And so Virgo rising, I want you to believe in your talents, believe in your abilities. No one sees your flaws like you do as a Virgo rising. There can be this tendency to be a little shy or behind the scenes, because it is important to note that when you have Virgo rising, you have Leo in your 12th house. So the Lord of your 12th house is the sun. So you don't see yourself clearly, you don't see your talents clearly, you don't see how other people perceive you necessarily clearly, as 12th house is the hidden house, and you don't see it from yourself either. So there can be this energy around constantly being down on yourself, or not seeing your value, or not seeing the genuine glow and warmth that you give this world. And there could be a tendency to want to hide from the spotlight because of that, because you don't want to be judged. Because let's be real, you're kind of judgmental. Okay, you're kind of judgmental, you're kind of critical, it's how you view the world, but the one that you're the hardest on is yourself. And you kind of think that other people are going to zero in on the little things that you hyperfixate and obsess over, but the thing is that they really are not. And you know, I'm a Virgo rising, so a lot of this, it's like, I'm saying it, and I'm like, girl, you better say that louder. But I just remember my mom would always say when I was younger, she's like, people don't think about you. They literally don't. They don't. Everyone's always thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. And it was like, as a Virgo rising, I just felt like my flaws, my imperfections were like blown up. So it was just easier to be behind the scenes, be the best supporting actor, help everybody else with their projects rather than dare take center stage, okay? And as a Virgo rising, what's interesting is that your ruling planet also governs your 10th house, and you have Capricorn governing your 5th. So part of your destiny here is to build a vocation that is intrinsically tied into who it is that you are as a person. You know, as a Virgo rising, there is this desire to want to be of genuine service and to want to be helpful, which is why you want Virgo rising on your team, because they're the one who will take on more for the group project. They're the ones who will make sure it's perfect and gets everyone an A. That's simply how they navigate life. But while you are good at that, and you are good at being that supporting role and helping other people with their vision, part of your path in this lifetime is to be able to own your glow and to be seen and to be visible for your talents, or at the very least, be able to work towards whether it's a passion project or a career, work towards something that you genuinely enjoy. Because as a Virgo rising, there is this desire to constantly want to be getting better at something, constantly want to be improving. And oftentimes you do, like you are looking for perfection. So you push yourself and you're hard on yourself, which drives yourself more, which creates this individual who tends to be a very high achiever. But it's important, Virgo rising, that you set goals that generally mean something to you, rather than just getting lost in the shuffle around being helpful to everybody else and constantly feeling like you are not valuable enough to work on what it is that you find pleasurable and enjoyable. And that's a part of your path within this lifetime, is to realize the value that you have, the intellect that you have, the analytical ability that you have. I mean, Virgo risings are very intelligent. And what's interesting about the way that you perceive the world, because you are someone who's a little bit behind the scenes, they tend to be very humble. They don't like to have a lot of conversation around themselves. It's typically fixated on another person, how they can be of service. So this kind of gets me to the next portion of this video, which is how the world sees you. And the world sees you, Virgo rising. Firstly, you have this energy about yourself where even if your world is falling apart, you have this energy about yourself where you're not going to let anyone know. It's almost like you despise having your vulnerabilities and your mistakes out there because you feel like other people will judge them as harshly as you do internally. So you hide it. You almost have this aura around, no one is gonna know what I'm going through. I'm gonna put on my perfect face and I'm just gonna muscle through it because my problems are not your problems. Like, I am not gonna let you know what's happening underneath this head of mine. Like, they can very much have this cool, calm, collected demeanor. So other people will perceive you as someone who is particular, sure. They'll definitely notice your wit, your way with words, your intelligence, but they'll also feel this certain energy of detachment. It's not necessarily easy to get to know a Virgo rising right away. Certainly after you get to know them, like, they are very, compassionate. They help from a genuine heart-centered place. It's not to curry favor. Virgo rising isn't looking to people please necessarily. They just genuinely want to make things better. They genuinely want to be part of projects and help them. And once they kind of get into that cool demeanor, then, that warmness from you exudes, but it takes a while for people to get there. Like, you definitely kind of keep them at arm's length to a certain degree and sort of meet them on that more like analytical mental level before, letting them into your emotions, because it's like whatever else is going on in your chart, keep in mind as the rising, this is like the energy that you just exude, and you just exude this energy of Virgo, which is like high standards, this kind of cool detachment, this independence. I don't need you. I'm here to help if you need my help. And let me know if any Virgo risings relate to this. Do people always turn to you for help? Like, literally, I'll just be like sitting on public transit or at the mall. People are like, can you help tie my shoe? It's like, do I know you? Or like coworkers constantly asking you, can you help with this? Can you help with this? And it's like, I might not be a genius in anything, but it's like, as a Virgo rising, I would rather literally slice my ear off than ask someone else for help. Like, it's almost like as a Virgo rising, there's this energy where you always have to be the one who's got it all together. I have all the answers. So you would rather take 2 hours out of your time to Google it and find an answer and then circle back to that person to help that person, rather than just be like, I don't know. It can give a certain air of superiority, as you can seem like a know-it-all at times, but sometimes Virgo risings just generally be know-it-all, so that's that. Now, talking about appearance. So Virgo risings typically have very small features. However, I've noticed with women, they typically have fuller lips. The men typically have a pretty angular nose. I've noticed a lot of hooded eyes in Virgo risings. I have hooded eyes.
Editing me here, I apologize for the interruption just when I pulled up the celebrities who are Virgo risings, which will flash across your screen shortly. I noticed some similarities that I want to make sure that I touched on more in depth. I'm noticing very angular faces, particularly very kind of pronounced chins or jaws. I'm noticing a mischievous yet trustworthy vibe about them. And I think this is because they do have Mercury as their ruler, and Mercury in astrology is the trickster. So while they harness the intellect of Mercury, there's also this sort of like trickster. Some blogs online were calling it sort of like an elf demeanor. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's something like sort of like elfster-like. And there's also it can be challenging discerning Gemini risings and Virgo risings age, because they do have trickster Mercury as their ruling planet. So a lot of times, particularly with Virgo risings, you'll perceive them as older because they do have this vibe of having it all together, or you could perceive them as sort of younger because they do have that trickster planet as their ruler. And there's also a very classic or kind of like clean cut vibe about these people. Like when I flash these celebrities, like tell me these wouldn't be the people that if you needed help in a grocery store, you wouldn't ask these particular people. Like Virgo risings just have a vibe about them that's just trustworthy.
There is something about their demeanor that just makes them look sort of like, even if they're not necessarily have everything put together, there's gonna be something about them putting together. Because again, they need to portray this air of, I've got it all together. I've got it all together. So even if a Virgo rising doesn't have it all together, they'll still want to have that be known. So they're definitely going to have a way of dressing that's a little bit understated, but it'll be put together. It'll be clean, it'll be exact, it'll be artful. A Virgo rising typically won't be, too obsessed with trends or anything like that. They're typically more so drawn to neutral, more so like statement pieces. They'll have a vibe about themselves that just feels like they're someone that you could turn to if you're like at the mall and need someone to tie your shoe or some other bizarre thing you need help with. You're gonna turn to a Virgo rising because they just have this energy of helpfulness. They have this energy around just like a purity from them. Like you don't really pick up on them having any sinister motives. Like they just have this very pure, clean cut energy exuding from them. As an Earth rising, I don't mean to write you guys off because I know we think of, ruled by the Virgin, we think that they're, all holy and whatever, but with Virgo rising is very connected to the body. And I would say for every Virgo rising, really getting into mind-body connection is so essential. It can help ground your nerves, soothe your nerves, which is so important. And your body will have a lot of genuine feedback to give you, Virgo rising. You can have really particular digestion. So I have to notice, okay, this particular food makes me feel this way. Energy drinks make me feel this way. Like you are here to live your life through the lens of discernment, discerning, is this for me? Not exactly. Is this for me? Not exactly. Discerning what does make you feel good. Not to say that you necessarily have to be like a health freak watching everything that you eat, but noticing what foods and what activities lead to you feeling more calm, more centered, rather than, adding to what can sometimes be very frayed nerves, as well as any sort of like meditation, yoga, anything that connects you to your body to get you out of your mind, because you are quite the overthinker. Your mind is always going, staring on the details, thinking about all the different ways that your world can improve, thinking about all the different ways that this room is wrong, this project is wrong, whatever else, and trying to find that order in the world. So wherever it is that you crave order, like every Virgo rising I've talked to has a very particular thing that they're exact about. Like for me, I always have 20 tabs open. It drives my Virgo rising friend absolutely insane because she's very particular, has to have one tab open. I get literally bothered when people try to help me clean my house. Like my boyfriend, namely, not like random people coming into my house, but I literally am like, you're doing it wrong. Like my house, even though I'm not the best cleaner in the world, I have a system. I have an order about things and it makes me feel soothed. So whatever it is for you that allows you to create some order in this chaotic, messy world, I want you to create that for yourself in order to find that soothing feeling that every Virgo rising deserves, because I know you guys are always all up in your mind. I get it. I am one of you. But Virgo rising, we appreciate you for your eye for detail, your desire to be of genuine service, and your desire to allow your efforts and endeavors to do the talking. Like the Virgo rising is not going to be the one who's like talking your ear off about all of their accomplishments. They'll let their accomplishments do the talking. They don't need to brag about it. Like you'll see the quality of their work when you feast your eyes upon it. Like they don't need to talk about it, if that makes sense, which is honestly kind of cool. Like Virgo risings are the type where it's like, you did all that? And you didn't say a word? Like it just makes it cooler when someone's had all these successes or has all this, you know, talent, and then they don't really say anything. Like, it's really like an understated thing. It's just sort of a cool thing. But wow, that's lovely. I also want you to own your glow, Virgo rising. So please put that work out there. You're being too hard on yourself. I absolutely guarantee it. Loves, let me know what resonated below. My Instagram handle is at Haley Comet Astrology. My TikTok is the same. I would love to connect with you over there. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.